Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're at, ladies and gents. I am Kura Isagami, your resident Tinkerer and Medarotter, and this is the Medarot News Network, bringing you all the latest developments and happenings with our favorite pet fighting robot series. Now, this week at first glance, you might think, finally, a time of respite and recuperation for all of my hemorrhaged resources, and to the extent you are actually kind of half right. Honestly, as fun as a scientific Railgun collaboration was, and quite honestly, I'm really glad they learned from the first run of the boss type event we had on that last run this previous week, making it a whole lot easier to farm and collect resources for, whether you had the bots or not. But I digress. This week in particular, we do actually have some really big pieces of information that I'm sure players have been waiting to hear for a long time, ever since the game's release, on how they could optimize the game's mechanics and make things more enjoyable and less of a grind. But in addition to this is also likely going to be a warm-up and a lead-in into the game's 3.5-year anniversary, which will be taking place later this month. So I am highly anticipating a whole lot more picking up after this week, as we have a lot of stuff incoming, and a lot of it incredibly exciting and very much so welcome, including the updates that they did tease and reveal will be going live later this month. But I am getting ahead of myself. That being said, let's go ahead and jump right into what was announced this week, of course starting with everybody's favorite starter point, the gacha banners that are going live through the week. The starting lineup on those is a brand new model being introduced into the game. For those that are up to date on story mode, which also is getting an update later on through this month, by the way, we did get our first ever teaser at a new boss type model that will be joining the game, and that is GAT-0 Sea Swallow, with the kits of Thundershot, Laser, Needle Guard, Biped Legs, and the leg ability of Carrier. Now, Needle Guard is a brand new skill being introduced into the game. Folks that have already fought Sea Swallow in the story mode already kind of have a little bit of an idea on what it is, but to explain it briefly, it essentially is Mirror Guard and Counter Guard all rolled into one. Putting it even simpler, that means as long as Sea Swallow has his butt planted on the center line, any attacks that he intercepts will be returned to sender at the damage intended toward the target that originally fired it in the first place. Of course, this does also mean that it follows standard rules and regulation of other defense-type skills, so Destroy, Defense Seal, Slip, and so on will likely cancel it or break it automatically, but in all cases still a very aggressive counter fighter all the same. In addition to Sea Swallow, we are also getting reruns of very popular female-type models, which actually are getting some more highlights here that I will explain in just a moment. But highlighting that, we have RMM0 Momoiro Maple, the Rosy Maple Moth type, with a kit of Cyber Core, Survivor, Confusion, Float Legs, and the leg ability of Captor. Behind her, we have the Cheerleader type CHR0 Pom Pom Mate from Medarot Girls Mission, with a kit of Stat Cleanse, Tornado, Gatling, Biped Legs, and the leg ability of Mascot. And then last but not least, we have the second mascot that's been around in Medarot S since pretty much its debut, and the main model to Medarotter Hisaki, the other main character in the story mode. And that is FSL-01 Fancy Ale, with a kit of Bug, Break Hammer, Napalm, Flight Legs, and the leg ability of Charm. Now, all four models here honestly have one thing, one way or another, that can make them very much so worth the investment and the rubies. For instance, Fancy Ale is capable of a tune-up treatment, which makes her even more aggressive and viable on the field, topping some of her weaknesses but also boosting some of her higher points. Momoiro Maple, if you like having an ailment fighter, and a very aggressive one, might I add, on the team as well. Pom Pom Mate for everybody's favorite status move, Tornado, and Stat Cleanse on top of that. And the new Sea Swallow if you find yourself interested in dragons and the color blue. With the fierce battles we have this week, though, it is going to be just a little lower key, but still some very well-loved models all the same. Starting that lineup, we have DRF-03 CD King with the kit of Press, Anti-Air, Press, Flight Legs, and the Bullet Rain leg ability. Behind him, we have everyone's favorite Pterodactyl type, PTL-0 Air Terra, with the kit of Radar Sight, Double Sword, Flight Legs, and the leg ability of Straight. And then last but not least, the original Sapphire type from Medarot 5, FSPR-0 Blue Corundum, with a kit of Optic Guard, Press, Beam, Sea Legs, and the leg ability of Brilliance. Now honestly, it was kind of hard to pick an MVP of the week for this week because honestly, all three models have something one way or another that make them worth going after. CD King, for instance, for quick flight legs with bullet rain, anti-air, Air Terra for a very well-rounded melee support-based oriented kit. Really can't ever go wrong with it. And Blue Corundum for the guard head and the shooting arms and the sea legs with a healing leg ability. But honestly, I would still have to give the MVP of the week to Air Terra. Not necessarily because he's one that everybody recognizes, but just because you can do so much more with a conventional sword, or even radar sight or very solid basic flight legs that you can't go wrong with either. CD King and Blue Corundum are still absolutely well worth your time and effort to farm for and collect if you do need them, and it never hurts to have them in your libraries just in case. But definitely put a little bit more of an emphasis on Air Terra if you do plan to collect him or make use of him, especially if you are an early game player or just now starting out. Now this was kind of old news as of yesterday and it was kind of revealed early, but we do also have limited time summertime skins for the super rare Medarots Minori and Megumi, who are both the main heroines of the Medarot Girls mission, Kabuto and Kuwagata versions respectively. For these limited time summer skins, Minori in particular will buff damage by 1.3 and your crit rate by 60%, but she will also debuff your resist stats by 40% while doing so, making it a little more of a glass cannon and a risk in this case. Meanwhile, Megumi, on the other hand, will reduce damage by 10% and an additional 7.5 or so if you're using biped legs. So honestly, compared to most other Medarotters that we've seen up to this point, be them rare rank or SR rank, these two really don't offer a whole lot to the table that we haven't already seen, or really offer much that allow them to stand out as something that you want to collect or really aim for. Unless, of course, you are a big fan of summertime outfits and Medarot Girls Mission in particular, then this is most certainly a time for you. As you see, this banner will close on 7/17, so definitely if you want to collect them, it's kind of a now or never since these are actually limited time Medarotters. In addition, the reason why Momoiro Maple, Pom Pom Mate, and Fancy Ale were being highlighted this week is because we also got our first teaser at the online exhibition skins that'll be live through the month of July. This time around, again emphasizing the summer festival theme as the warm weather and summer season officially kick off. We are getting summer festival variants of all three as alternative skins. Momoiro Maple and Pom Pom Mate definitely donning that really adorable kimono kind of design, especially Pom Pom Mate in that case exchanging the pom-poms for what looked to be like water balloons if I do recall correctly. And honestly, the blue color on that looked really, really nice too if I'm being honest. And of course with Fancy Ale donning instead of a witch's broom with a jet engine, a summer festival snack with her own variant of the floral summer festival kimono. All three are wonderful designs. There is really no benefit or detriment to getting them or passing on them, but you can have chances at earning them just by participating in online PvP. So very easy, very lucrative. You really can't ever go wrong with adding it to your dailies. Just as a reminder, they always cycle these skins out every month, so every month we get something new. Now, of course, with the big thing that everybody's been waiting for, and I think is going to be the most exciting piece of news probably on the channel to date, as I've actually made videos on this up to this point, trying to point out a lot of errors I see, or a lot of complaints I see on Twitter about the game as a whole, whether that be mechanic imbalances, or things that are broken, or glitches, or not working. It seems Imagineer is finally listening and acknowledging that there are things that need fixed, because we have a lot, and I mean a lot, of updates that are going live with the next update version through the month of July. Starting the lineup on what was announced of new updates. In particular, there will be a new tutorial mechanic implemented into the game via the home screen. For first-time completion, you will have the opportunity to collect some extra rewards like power-up chips and so on for parts or medals. And they also highlighted that May Puppy, Samurai, and Bastroy will be added in there as test partners while you learn the mechanics. This will be fantastic for you to collect on, to emphasize on and learn, especially if you are a new player or a rookie Medarotter who's still learning. And this essentially will also become a wonderful tool in tandem with me as I go back and kind of rework some of my early tutorial models videos as well, and make them a little easier to digest. So what I may end up doing is taking some of these videos and kind of translating them into English and explaining some of the mechanics to make it easier to follow along, especially for the Western players and the Western audience that do follow and adore the Medarot series from afar, and do everything they can to support just from the long distance. In addition to this, row battles in general are getting a very massive amount of changes and checks and balances to them as well. The first of which is a new silent leader being implemented into the game as a new mechanic. For players that have played Medarot 9, rejoice, because this is a mechanic that I think all of you may have come to love and recognize with this. Basically, as explained, when attacking an enemy, you have no clue which one is the leader, pretty much like it was before, until you end up killing him. That is no longer the case. If you manage to attack an opponent's head part and you successfully flush out the leader, a banner will appear underneath them to show that you flushed them out and revealed them. This basically will give you an out, as in if you want to finish killing everyone else and then the leader, or if you want to make it a quick fight and end the leader off quickly, you now have the option to do so and know exactly who to target. In addition to this, they also mentioned that they will be reworking the CG bonus system when it comes to breaking parts via Metaforce. In particular, this used to mean that a lot of teams that use Metaforce spam capitalize on that with Hunter and Sniper nature medals with AoE Metaforces. That no longer will be the case, as it means that when breaking a part with a Metaforce nuke, you will not get CG bonus for it. It is currently not known if Medarotters, Kazumi and Salt, and other Medarotters that grant bonus CG on broken parts will be affected, but at face value as is and as read, you will no longer gain bonus CG no matter what your metal nature is if you use a Metaforce to break something. So that alone will be making a lot of changes to PvP and competitive metas, which I will get into just a minute as I translate just what exactly a lot of these updates are going to mean. Lastly, a lot of the big updates that people have absolutely been complaining on is with PvP. This time around, there will be a lot more changes to this specifically going forward. First of the matter is Meta League rewards for each rank will be going up significantly and permanently. This means that no matter what rank you are, especially higher ranks like Diamond, Legend, and Champion, will be much more lucrative to reach for and stay in, or even advance to the next rank, because the rewards will be much more worth your time and your while than they have been up to this point. Survival bonus, which is basically the number of allied Medarots on your side or number of parts that are still intact upon winning, will be reduced if parts are destroyed. So it won't hurt you as badly as it would before if, say, you used Assassin and failed, or Sacrifice, or Microwave, or Microshock. Basically, anytime you lose parts, you lose points, essentially. That will no longer be the case, or it won't necessarily count against you. And if your allied Medarot gets taken down, the survival bonus will not count against you, if I did read that correctly. Tying into that, the deactivation bonus or kill bonus is boosted, so you'll get more points when you take down an enemy Medarot, and increased even further if you take down the Medarot with that turn. So again, more lucrative points are earned just for taking out enemy bots or even the enemy leader. On the topic of enemy leader, Silent Leader will of course be implemented into this as a native thing going forward, so something just to keep an eye on. But in terms of bonuses going forward, Leader Destruction will be a new bonus that is being tied. Now, normally in the past, people used to complain that they couldn't maximize on their bonuses, such as say total damage output or legend rank bonus or so on, because they killed the leader too quickly. Well, worry not, because that is now a thing of the past. Now for the leader bonus, you get more points the faster and sooner you kill the leader, and the more enemy Medarots that are still alive. So that means now instead of doing a whole team wipe like you would see commonly in PvP, that is no longer the case. Now they're going to try to start single targeting people that they flush out as the leader, and try to leave everyone else alive to maximize on points. On topic of this, the current bonuses for win streak, total damage output, and legend rank bonus will be removed. That means there really is no excuse for you not participating in PvP now, because now you don't get a multiplier bonus for number of battles that you win in a row. Originally there used to be able to, now that's no longer the case. So if you do end up taking an L, don't sweat it, don't worry about it. You really won't be losing a lot more points going forward, allowing you to maintain your rank just a little bit easier than before, as well as being able to maintain your combo streak even after a loss breaks it. Total damage bonus and legend bonus, same cases. No real need for those anymore, since now a lot of competitive will be focusing on single targets more than team wipes. Lastly, enemy matchmaking algorithms will also be cycled with and tuned, making them just a little bit easier to find targets or work with targets in your selected list, instead of having to cycle endlessly and then end up not getting anyone you could even feasibly take on. And honestly, I'm looking forward to a lot of these changes very, very openly for a number of reasons. And not just me, but the Medarot community as a whole has complained and made mentions a lot that things have to change to keep things fresh. Well, I believe this is exactly what the doctor ordered. Now, what do a lot of these updates mean in particular? This means that row battles in general, between PvP, story mode, well, maybe not super invasions, but everything else in general will be much more interactive and engaging, as it means now through the use of Silent Leader, you don't have to worry about squad wipes anymore and building teams just kind of play cheap tricks with metaphor spam. Now you actually have to kind of flush out the enemy leader and decide if you want to kill them quickly or if you just want to take your time. PvP will now become much more lucrative and engaging, so people may not be able to complain about it as much before, but of course only time will tell once those updates go live. AoE skills, hammer, power hammer, wide break, missile, and so on will have much, much more viable use than they did before. This actually is a major, major tie-in to the Silent Leader mechanic from Medarot 9, which a lot of people who played the game absolutely loved. Normally, AoE skills even I myself tend to harp on, because compared to their total damage, they really don't do a lot. But now we actually have a reason to use at least one of them on the team to make it a lot easier to flush out an enemy leader. Since only just damaging the head part, not breaking it, but just damaging it, flushes them out automatically as of when this update goes live. And lastly, most importantly, and the biggest thing I've seen complaints on that I am most happily looking forward to with this update, no more metaphor spam teams in PvP. Now, granted, that does not mean they're going to completely disappear, because it is still a pretty viable strategy, especially if the SR Medarotters, Salt, Kasumi, and so on still do get to keep their bonuses. But because you will not be earning bonus CG upon metaphor snooks when breaking parts, it will mean you will have much less of an incentive to use them and rely more on strategy and other part builds to kind of help see your team to victory. This means, of course, that Tornado anti-air spam may still be a thing, Flash Tsujigiri might still be a thing, and maybe a couple other team builds that you may or may not see with this new update. But I, for one, am actually still looking forward to this greatly, as it means that it's going to keep everything fresh, and I feel PvP in particular in this case has been incredibly stale due to the metaphor spam that you see, especially in higher ranks like Legend and Champion, no less. So much more so, hugely looking forward to these updates and seeing if they do indeed keep things fresh and change up the meta. On the community front though, kind of changing gears a little bit, we are still always looking for translators to assist us with any of our translation projects. This includes the Medarot 3 and Medarot Reloaded and Medarot 4 translation projects that are currently ongoing. Progress on Medarot 3 is still kind of in their testing phase just to make sure everything's working as it should, but there still is a lot of text that needs translated. Same thing can be said for Medarot 4, which is still being decompiled, but we need people to help clean and translate. So if you are knowledgeable in coding or cleaning or Japanese and have some time on your hands, feel free to reach out to me or join us in our Discord in the link provided below, and we'll get you in touch with the right people that need to fill you in on what has been done and what still needs done up to this point. Because we would absolutely love to work on other projects such as Medarot 5, Medarot Navi, and even some of the more modern titles like DS 7 through 9. But we really can't unless we have people to help with that. So again, if you'd like to help, reach out to me or join our Discord. We'll get you in touch with the right people for sure. With weekly art highlights here on the MNN, I actually decided to instead focus on some paint shop builds that have been shared, not just in our Discord server, but also that I see pretty commonly shared across Twitter as well. This one here by one of our resident Discord users, Frieza Lowe's, decided to make a battle-made Blazer Mate, which honestly was a very creative way of using it, between the use of Blazer Mate's head for, of course, the iconic look and twin tails, Brightness's legs for the maid look, and of course adding the Unit 02 from the EVA Collab's arms to make her even more so aggressive on the field. And being honest, this build actually works. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna go into analyzing if it's good or not and why, but it actually is a pretty solid and a very cute build with good aesthetics. Wonderful job for Frieza Lowe's, and it is a very nice design you came up with. And then this Twitter user here, Macaroni4141MGS, decided to get a little more creative with his aesthetic and decided to make something kind of based off a theme. If you recognize the black colored top and the pink boots, then you're most certainly on the right track. Most likely they were absolutely emulating Medaton EX from the Undertale series. And being honest, I think it's actually a really good representation of it. With the wide shoulders, the pink boots, and so on, I think it's a pretty good retelling and recreation of it. Not quite 100% perfect, of course, but the theme is absolutely there and very easy to pick out. So wonderful work to the both of you, and I do actually plan to kind of implement looking into these paint builds more and more, because being completely honest, there's a lot of really unique, really aesthetically pleasing, and equally as aesthetically cursed builds that there are out there that I definitely want to start highlighting on. But with all this being said, I do believe that covers everything for this week's episode. So, like I said, we have a lot of major updates that are going live through the month of July. A lot of them are going to be updates that we are absolutely looking forward to and have been begging for a long time. So going to be very exciting to see those updates go live and see if it really does shake up the meta and keep things fresh. But with that being said, if you'd like to know more, you can follow us below on Facebook at the Medarot News Network page or the Metabots Forever community on there. You can also join us on Discord in the link provided and in the comments below if you want to keep an even closer ear to the ground on the action. This includes any new merchandise, new fan art, my weekly episodes, or anything else that we're working on currently. That's the first place you're going to hear it before it goes anywhere else. You can also reach out to me personally on Twitter at IsagamiKura, so if you have any questions or feedback or comments, or would love just to stop in and say hello, I leave my DMs open for that very reason. So don't be a stranger, stop on in and say hello, and I'll get back to you when I can. In addition, if you are a streamer, VTuber, or YouTuber and would love to collaborate sometime, whether that means having you here with me on my channel or me stopping in on yours, I would absolutely love to communicate with you and coordinate that. So again, reach out to me via those DMs and we'll make something happen no matter what, I promise and guarantee it. Lastly, give these wonderful friends of mine a follow as well on Twitter at user TrickerXG250. Very good friend of mine, and wonderful designs that they've come up with, as well as Ori metas, or even just designs they come up with for fun. Fairly recently, they did actually create a new KBT design based off of Kurojiri as a template and color base, which I actually did render in 3D. Wonderful model. I had a lot of fun doing that one, and if you want to see more art, definitely give them a follow. Also, give Mo and CH Sai a follow as well as on Twitter, or the unofficial Medarot fan account on Twitter that loves to keep an even closer ear to the ground on action than like I do. So if you want to keep a clear ear to the ground on fan art, Medarot updates from the channel, or Medarot S, definitely give them a follow as well to keep it up to date and keep your source of information fresh in your Twitter feeds. But with all that being said, again, I do appreciate you all for stopping by just as you always do. And until next time, this is your host, Kura Isagami of the Medarot News Network, signing out.